In the lecture series on Introduction to Radar System, we are now going to discuss the modification of radar equation. In previous lecture, we have modified radar equation a little bit. We have introduced number of parameters that would change the actual theoretically determined radar equation. In this lecture, we will add some more parameters to make the radar equation more close to the experimental results. In previous class, we have discussed the effect of noise in radar equations. Now we will consider how we can integrate number of pulses to make the signal to noise ratio higher. That means to enhance the detection capability of the radar much better way. So the process of summing all the radar echo pulses for the purpose of improving detection is called integration. Many pulses are usually returned from any target on each radar scan and can be used to improve the detection. The number of pulses, we are considering just an example, we will consider it. Number of pulses, say NB, returned from a point target as the radar antenna scans through the beam with that can be written number of pulses as theta b into fp divided by d theta s dt, or you can write it in terms of antenna scan rate in rpm like theta b fp divided by 6 omega r, where this theta b is the antenna beam width in degree, fp is the pulse repetition frequency in hertz, d theta s dt is the antenna scanning rate in degree per second, that we can convert it into antenna scan rate in rpm omega r. So if you take an example, theta b equal to 1.5 degree, fp say 300 hertz, this is a standard value, omega r is 5 rpm. In that case, under this situation, NB is nearly 15 hits. That means in one scan, almost 15 number of pulses or echo would expected to be returned from a point target. That means the point target will not produce single echo, but in one scan it will produce 15, at least 15 number of echoes. So we can, instead of using single pulse for the detection, we can use number of pulses like 15 number of pulses for the detection process, and it is expected that if we use more number of pulses, the detection process would expected to be better. So this is the objective of this work. So integration may be accomplished in the radar receiver either before the second detector. Before the second detector means in the IF range, IF amplifier, or after the second detector, that means in the video amplifier section. Integration before the detector is called pre-detection or coherent integration. Here the phase of echo signal is to be preserved if full benefit is to be obtained from the summing process. Integration after the detector is called post-detection or non-coherent integration. Here phase information is destroyed by the second detector. So post-detection integration is not concerned with preserving RF phase. Due to this simplicity, it is easier to implement in most applications, but it is not as efficient as pre-detection integration. Now if n pulses, all of the same signal to noise ratio were integrated by an ideal pre-detection integrator, the resultant or integrated signal to noise ratio would be exactly n times that of a single pulse. So that's the benefit we are going to get. If the same n pulses were integrated by an ideal post-detection device, the resultant signal to noise ratio would be less than n times that of a single pulse. So that means in post detection we have some loss in signal to noise ratio. So this loss in integration efficiency is caused by the nonlinear action of the second detector, which converts some of the signal energy to noise energy in the rectification process. Due to its simplicity, post detection integration is preferred many times, many times, even though the integrated signal to noise ratio may not be as high as that of pre-detection. That means though its efficiency is poor, but because of its simplicity for making circuit or implementation part, simple implementation, it is post detection is much more popular. An alert trained operator viewing a properly designed cathode ray tube display is a close approximation to the theoretical post detection integrator. The efficiency of post detection integration relative to ideal pre detection integration has been computed by Markham when all pulses are of equal amplitude. The integration efficiency may be defined in this way: EIN equal to S by N suffix 1 divided by N times S by N suffix N. Obviously N is the number of pulses integrated. S by N1, this one, is the value of the signal to noise ratio of a single pulse required to produce a given probability of detection for n equal to 1. And S by N suffix N, this one, denominator, it is the value of signal to noise ratio per pulse required to produce the same probability of detection when n pulses of equal amplitude are integrated. The improvement in signal to noise ratio when n pulses are integrated is called the integration improvement factor, written as IIN, that is equal to n into EIN. So it may also be thought of as the effective number of pulses integrated by the post detection integrator. The improvement with ideal pre detection integration would be equal to n. Integration loss in decibel is defined as Li as a function of n equal to 10 log 1 by EIN. The integration improvement factor or the integration loss is not a sensitive function of either the probability of detection or the probability of false alarm that we have studied in our previous class. The radar equation with n pulses integrated can be written as r to the power 4 max. Numerator would be the same, PTGAE sigma divided by 4 pi whole square KT0 BN Fn S by N N. So this is the new term, where the parameters are the same as in the earlier radar equation except this one, S by N N. And this is the signal to noise ratio of one of the n equal pulses that are integrated to produce the required probability of detection for a specified probability of false alarm. So if we substitute the integration efficiency in the original radar equation by EIN equal to S by N1 divided by N S by N, then we can write this in terms of the integration efficiency. So r to the power 4 max becomes PTGAE sigma n EIN divided by 4 pi whole square KT0 BN Fn S by N1. So this is the modification we can make for integration of radar pulses. Now you have to understand the radar cross section of targets. The radar cross section of a target is the fictional area intercepting that amount of power which, when scattered equally in all directions, produces an echo at the radar equal to that from the target. So in other way we can represent it as sigma is the RCS, power reflected towards source per unit solid angle divided by incident power density divided by 4 pi. Mathematically we can write it in this way: limit r tends to infinity 4 pi r square mod of er by ei whole square, where this er is the strength of reflected field at radar, ei is the strength of incident field at radar, r is the range. So this is how we define the radar cross section of a target. Now let us have some idea of radar cross section and how it is dependent on the frequency. So radar cross section of a simple sphere. To understand this, we will consider a simple sphere as target, as if we are changing the frequency and we are trying to observe the radar cross section. What happens to the radar cross section, whether it is increasing or decreasing. So let us try to understand with this fictitious experiment. So this figure actually shows the variation of radar cross section with respect to frequency or wavelength, and in y-axis it is plotted with sigma of the sphere divided by pi a square. So it is a normalized radar cross section, and in the x-axis we have circumference by wavelength, that is 2 pi a by lambda. So it is normalized perimeter, you can call it as. Now as you can see, when this x-axis is very small, under this case that means lambda is very high. Lambda high means frequency is very low. So for lower frequency, as we increase the frequency from a very low value to higher value, the cross section increases, right? And then suddenly cross section tries to decrease and then again increase and tries, so it is kind of oscillatory in nature. And finally, when lambda is small enough, that means frequency is large enough, then it becomes almost equal to 1. 1 means sigma sphere divided by pi a square. 1 means sigma sphere is nearly equal to pi a square. That means the radar cross section becomes almost equal to its geometric cross section. So we divide this plot into 3 distinct regions. This portion is called the Rayleigh region. This section is called the Mie region or resonance region, and this constant portion is called the optical region. So let us see what happens to all these 3 regions. First, consider the Rayleigh region. In this case, the size of the sphere is small compared with the wavelength. That means 2 pi a by lambda much smaller than 1. Here the RCS varies as lambda to the power minus 4. The cross section of raindrops and other meteorological particles fall within this region as the usual radar frequencies. Raindrops, etc. are essentially invisible to radars operating at longer wavelengths. That means if the radar operates at lower range of frequencies, that is under VHF or lower value of ultra high frequency, then the raindrops would appear to be or almost transparent. That means radar can see through the rain if radar operates under low frequency condition. So radar can detect targets in presence of rain or fog. So this is very important region. Now we will consider the Mie region or the resonance region right here. This one. So for this case, the size of the sphere is comparable with the wavelength. So 2 pi a by lambda is nearly equal to 1. Here as you can see, RCS is oscillatory. That means sometimes the radar cross section becomes larger compared to its geometric area. Sometimes it is lesser, and it is dependent on the frequency. The peak-to-peak difference between the maxima and minima is more than 10 dB. So this is the characteristics of this region. Now we will consider the optical region, this one. Here the size of the sphere is large compared to the wavelength. That means 2 pi a by lambda is much greater than 1. The RCS approaches the optical cross section pi a square. Optical cross section means geometric cross section. So it is important for imaging type of radar. So these are three different regions of this plot and their characteristics. Now we will consider few terms related to the transmitted power. First, the peak power. The power P suffix T in the radar equation is called the peak power. This is not the instantaneous peak power of a sine wave. It is the power averaged over that carrier frequency cycle which occurs at the maximum power of the pulse. Now the average radar power P average. The average transmitter power over the pulse repetition period. If the transmitted waveform is a train of rectangular pulses of width tau and the pulse repetition period T suffix P equal to 1 by Fp, where Fp is the pulse repetition frequency, then the average power is related to the peak power by P average equal to Pt peak power into tau divided by T suffix P. That means Pt into tau into Fp. Next is the duty cycle. The ratio of average power to the total power, that is PAV by Pt, or tau by T suffix P, or tau into Fp, is called the duty cycle of the radar. A pulse radar for detection of aircraft might have typically a duty cycle of 0.001, whereas a CW radar which transmits continuously has a duty cycle of unity. Writing the radar equation in terms of average power rather than the peak power, so we are modifying the radar equation again in terms of average power. We can write R to the power 4 max equal to PAV. Instead of PT we are writing it as PAV into GAE sigma n EIN divided by 4 pi whole square KT0 Fn Bn into tau S by N1 Fp. The bandwidth and the pulse width are grouped together since the product of the two is usually of the order of unity in most pulse radar applications. Now we will consider the pulse repetition frequency and the range ambiguity. The pulse repetition frequency is determined primarily by the maximum range at which targets are expected. If the PRF is made too high, the likelihood of obtaining target echoes from the wrong pulse transmission is increased. Echo signals received after an interval exceeding the pulse repetition period are called multiple time around echoes. So we will consider three targets: target A, target B and target C. We have chosen the pulse repetition frequency in such a way that this is the maximum range, which is called the unambiguous range, because if the target is present within this range, then for this pulse, that means the current pulse, the radar's receiver will receive its echo. But if we consider this B target, the distance of this B target is such that after transmitting this current pulse, the radar receiver will receive the echo of B, but that echo is not due to the current pulse. Actually, it is the echo coming from the previous pulse. Okay, this one. Similarly, target C is at far away distance and the radar is receiving its echo from 2 pulse earlier. So the echo received from pulse C is actually due to this pulse when it was transmitted, and C was at so distance that the previous 2 pulses took so much long time that it is coming back that particular echo for last 2 pulses is coming to the radar receiver during the current pulse time. Okay, so effectively in a scope display, what we will see the position of A in its own position. There is no problem because it is within the unambiguous range. So target A will appear here, but observe the position of target B. Target B will appear before target A, because this echo is actually from the previous pulse, right? But the position of B is such that as if it is much closer to this B target is much closer to target A, and C target, which is actually far away distance, this echo is coming in between B and A. So these 2 echoes are actually false echoes. They are not coming due to the current pulse, they are coming from previous pulses, and that would lead to us the wrong detection, right? Because B and C should not appear here. They should be away compared to pulse A or target A. But the thing is that the A-scope display will show that these 2 targets are present much closer compared to A. So these are actually errors. So one method of distinguishing multiple time around echoes from unambiguous echo is to operate with varying pulse repetition frequencies. So what happens? We will actually trying to change the pulse repetition frequency. So the echo signal from an unambiguous range target will appear at the same place right here on a scope on each sweep, no matter whether the PRF is modulated or not. But the echoes from multiple time around targets will spread over a finite range like this one, because pulse repetition frequency is changing. So this distance and that distance, now they are not same, or this time gap, they are not same. So these multiple time around echoes will spread over some period of time, or if you plot it in terms of range, it will spread over some range. So the number of separate pulse repetition frequencies will depend upon the degree of the multiple time around targets. Second time target needs only 2 separate repetition frequencies in order to be resolved. So this is one way of distinguishing the original unambiguous target A and ambiguous or erroneous target B and C. This is how we can do it. So these are the basics of simple radar. We are trying to inform you about the pulse radar system. There are a lot of things to be means lot of things are there to tell you, but with the short period of duration, it is not possible for us to, or for me to tell you everything. So I think you got some basic idea of pulse radar system, and if you have that knowledge in pulse radar system, you can read more and participate in other short-term courses, so that you can get the proper knowledge in radar system. So that's all for this session. Thank you very much.